this is Jen from Winrose Fiber Studio. Today we're going to be learning how to crochet the Solomon's Knot stitch. I love the Solomon's Knot. This is a stitch I go for anytime I need some lace or an open stitching. It's great in the summertime when you're working on lightweight clothes or swimsuit cover-ups, and it's just a really versatile stitch. It has four-way stretch, and you can see that within the design are almost X shapes, but in between those X shapes are sort of diamond-shaped spaces. So it's geometric, but it's also very soft. Another name for the Solomon's Knot stitch is the Lover's Knot, and it's simply made from a series of elongated chains and single crochet. You start by chaining 2, and then you work a single crochet into the back loop of the second chain from your hook. Next, you'll pull on that loop to elongate that chain, and you want to keep the back loop separate as you yarn over and pull through the loop. Then you're going to go back under that back loop and simply work a single crochet. Believe it or not, that's really all there is to it. You've just made your first Solomon's Knot. You can see that mine is just under 1/2 inch long, and your stitch length can vary depending on your personal preference or the project you're working on. Let's practice a few more times. You'll see that I kind of hopped up and put my thumb and middle finger over the last single crochet made. This really helps to keep that back loop separate from the top of the chain, and it makes it really easy for me to insert my hook back into that stitch under the back loop, and then I can yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, which of course is how you make a single crochet. When you have a chain of Solomon's Knot stitches, the back of the chain has that single back loop and the top of the chain has 2 threads. Let's go ahead and make a swatch so you can see how this stitch becomes a lacy fabric. Your base chain will have a multiple of 2 Solomon's Knot stitches plus 1. For my swatch, I'm creating a total of 9 Solomon's knots. Of course, you begin by chaining 2 and working a single crochet in the back loop of your second chain from the hook, and then you can start to make those Solomon's Knot stitches. Now, there are some variations out in the world, but I am going to give you a very textbook tutorial today, and then you can play with it as you will. In doing so, I'm going to distinguish between an edge Solomon's Knot, which is just a little shorter than a main Solomon's Knot, which will be the internal part of the fabric. I like to make my main Solomon's Knot stitches about 1/2 inch long. So for my edge stitches, I'm doing about 6/16 of an inch, or just a little bit shorter than 1/2 inch. Now, your stitches aren't all going to be perfect or perfectly the same size because you're not a machine. Thank goodness you are a human doing handiwork. So don't be too hard on yourself, especially as you're getting started, while you try to make your stitch sizes as consistent as you can. Now that I have 8 edge stitches and 1 main for a total of 9, I'm ready for row 1. For row 1, turn your work so that you can go back across the top of your base chain. Remember, the back has those single threads and the top has the 2 threads. You're going to work a single crochet in the stitch between the 3rd and 4th loops. So just insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. There are going to be 3 loops. One will be the bottom, one will be the side edge, and the 3rd one will start our first X shape. Now you're going to work 2 of your main Solomon's Knot stitches. So you're going to elongate that loop on your hook to the length that you want your stitches to be. In my case, that is right about 1/2 inch. You can see that when I compare my base chain to the 2 stitches I just made, those base chain stitches are just a little bit shorter than my main Solomon's knot stitches. Now let's continue on with our repeating pattern. We're going to skip the next 2 loops, 1, 2, and then we're going to work a single crochet in the next stitch. When you go into that stitch, there should be 2 threads on top of your hook. Then you'll complete this single crochet by yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Then it's back to the beginning of the repeat. You're going to work 2 main Solomon's knot stitches. That means the length that you want your main stitches to be. And then you're going to skip 2 loops and single crochet in the next stitch. This is the pattern that you'll repeat all the way across row 1. These are short rows, so I'm already on my last repeat. Skip these last 2 loops and work a single crochet in that last stitch. Before I work my turning Solomon's knot stitches, we can have a quick look at our fabric. You can see that because our main stitches are a little bigger, they kind of pop up out of the fabric. And then to turn, we're going to work 2 edge Solomon's knot stitches, because those are literally going to be the side edge of our fabric, and then 1 main Solomon's knot stitch. So I'm making 2 that are just shorter than 1/2 inch and 1 that's right about 1/2 inch long. Now I can turn my work and head in to row 2. So for row 2, this time I'm going to skip the first 4 loops and then single crochet in the stitch between the 4th and the 5th loops. After that, your repeating pattern for row 2 is exactly the same as your repeating pattern for row 1. You're going to make 2 main Solomon's knot stitches, skip 2 loops, and then work a single crochet in the next stitch. You're going to repeat this pattern all the way across. After the very last single crochet, you're going to work 2 edge Solomon's knot stitches and then 1 main sized Solomon's knot stitch, and then turn. You'll notice that in row 2, your single crochet stitches are always going to fall into that single crochet between 2 main loops from the previous row. Your single crochets are always going to be offset in this way, and this is what forms those X shapes. This is easier to see looking at the fabric than it is to explain with words. You can see that the single crochets in row 2 are offset from the single crochets of the previous row by 1 loop. This is what really helps to form that lace. Speaking of row 2, we need to finish the row by working our turning stitches. This means to work 2 edge Solomon's knot stitches and 1 main Solomon's knot stitch. You'll be making these 3 stitches at the end of each row. For rows 3 and up, you're simply going to be repeating row 2. I've typed out the directions for you once again, and I'm going to work 1 more row just as a review. So you're going to skip those first 4 loops and then single crochet in the stitch between the 4th and 5th loops. Then it's that same repeating pattern, 2 main Solomon's knot stitches, skip 2 loops, and then single crochet in the next stitch. You work this repeating pattern across, and then you work 2 edge Solomon's knot stitches, and then 1 main Solomon's knot stitch, and turn. Okay, I know I haven't worked my turning stitches yet, but I can never resist stopping and having a look at the fabric. You can see that by the end of row 3, the lace is already really coming in. You can get a real sense for what your fabric is going to look like. Before I leave you today, I've brought my swatch back out so I can show you how to count your rows. So here is the base chain, and then the bottom of the X is row 1, and then the 2 loops that make up the top of the X is row 2. Every X shape is made up of 2 rows, so you can simply count by the center of an X. So if we pick the center of an X along the edge, we can just count up. So here's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9. Thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.